What's up, guys? It is the off season and I have not posted a ton, and I've been jamming on the East Coast car quite a bit. We kind of threw this car back together to get it shipped out to New Hampshire and got a full season on it. Blew the engine at Lime Rock. Then I just was kind of waiting to tear it down, and now it is a complete bare shell, and she is ready to head to KG Performance out in Keene, New Hampshire, where it's going to get sandblasted. Bunch of parts over here are going to get powder coated, Cerakote, manifold is going to get Cerakoted, and then all of this aluminum and steel is all going to get powder coated matte black. We're going to be looking really good when this thing comes back together. I'm going to steel it gray, the entire chassis. I'm pumped because there's a ton of stuff left undone, and smoke would just billow itself into the cabin. So I'm gonna be fixing that stuff, plugging a lot of the holes that were left open, sealing the rear. I already welded these plates in. There was just big holes here left undone because we didn't have time to finish it. So that's all boxed in. Smoke was actually coming through the frame rail here and coming up and into the window. And the other thing I wanted to show you guys, I got this really cool auto body dolly from Summit. Got some big casters on it. Just strap it down to it. Gonna put this thing right in the trailer and head on out. All right, boys, we out here at KG Performance, dropping all the parts off. Chassis is in good hands with Ben here, who's gonna be spraying it himself.
That's right.
Coating all the parts, Cerakote, powder coat. We'll see this thing soon when it's completely bare and ready for some steel it.
Sweet. Nice paint job, that's for sure.
Now burn off any of the fibers of rags left behind. A lot of steel it, bro. That's a lot of steel it. All right, guys, that's a wrap here at KG Performance. Big thanks to Ben and the owner Ryan for taking care of us. We are freshly painted. We got all our powder coat parts done. Time for some assembly, some cutting, and some more fabrication work and getting this baby together. Let's go. Hey guys, so we have been cranking on the East Coast car. We just picked up the chassis from KG Performance, who did a great job, and we are ready to finish the final assembly on my 2JZ. I had a few dry sump parts left over from our old program, so I utilized those and then purchased the rest of what I needed from Titan, and we're gonna be running the Titan Motorsports dry sump pump. Probably run like 750, 800 in the car now with this engine. I got Rad Dan's alternator and water pump delete set up, all anodized black with a little bit of gold hardware on there. So this thing is all coming together pretty nice. I got some valve covers getting anodized. These will not stay on here. And basically just trying to go through this thing and finish building it so that we can get subframes back in the East Coast car and then drop this baby in. Because we're going dry sump, we need a dry sump tank, which I already have. So that has to get installed and plumbed. The biggest thing doing on this right now is I'm going to be crimping some line. So we have to attach, obviously, the oil pan to the pump. All the scavenge ports got to get hooked up. That's what we're going to be starting with on today. Then I have to make a spacer for the front pulley here, which will fill this gap, and then it'll also act as a guide for the belt. I got my nameless intake manifold all anodized black. Pulled the throttle body all apart, painted this black so everything matches. Got some nice gold hardware on there. A brand new radium fuel rail for the 2JZ, and also our brand new Tuerck'd 1500cc injectors. And then this is our exhaust manifold, all freshly Cerakoted. And then we can put our Garrett G35 1050 back on. So I'm hoping to get all of that stuff on by the end of the day, and this thing absolutely looking pristine and ready to get dropped in. We got our Dash 10 Brown & Miller turbo drain line. I had to make a new line because we had to extend this quite a bit. And we're gonna add some PTP heat management on there just to make sure this line don't get burned up in between that hot manifold. All right, time to do a little crimping. Got to get our clocking correct because these are crimp fittings. They are not double swivel. We just want to make sure we are 100% on point before we do our full crimp. Pretty nice and tight. And then we'll have a little bit of room left over for the third one here. And then before we finish off this one, I'm going to wait. I only had a 45. So we're going to do a 60 degree off the pump to a 45 degree here. And that should give us a nice clean line that is as straight as possible. So we're going to go ahead and crimp this one since we are ready to rock. And that is a fully crimped Brown & Miller line. That's it. It's as good as it gets. Got our brand new 60mm Turbo Smart Pro Gate. So the first thing we're actually going to do with the wastegate is pull the top off and put the right amount of spring pressure in there. I think it's going to come with a standard 1 bar or 14 PSI. So we got our springs on there. This is a spring chart you can look up at Turbo Smart. So it gives you wastegate 60 right here. There's raw, purple spring, white spring, and a brown. The brown is what it comes with. It's a 14. And then we're going to run purple, which is a 5. So we're going to have 19 PSI off the wastegate, which is a little bit more than what we need, but the alternative isn't there. So you can't stack these two springs. They're the same diameter, and we would have to use the white, the raw, and the purple to make 15 PSI, which would be half. We're gonna run 19. It's not a big deal. John Reed can sort that out on Boost Strategy in the Motec. And I guess if we want to run closer to 40 PSI, we can, which I don't think we will. So I'm gonna leave this a little loose so I can clock it when I get it in the car. What we like to do, instead of running those barb fittings that they come with, you get a nice AN and you just run a stainless steel braided line with dash 3 or dash 4 all the way to your solenoid, which is going to be up here somewhere. Chassis back. Let's start some assembly. Front subframe in. Let's go. Subframe's in, baby! So I obviously should have done this before we sandblasted and painted, but since we did put Steel-It on it, it'll still be an easy fix, just a couple extra steps. I'm gonna fill in all of the firewall holes, sensor, and then we'll do some grommets, weld that in, try to weld this in. So we got all our templates cut. I'm gonna go cut these out of some sheet metal, and we're gonna braze them in. So I've been jamming on this thing. I filmed a bunch of crap footage of me assembling stuff because Zach was busy, I don't know, being lazy or something. So he's back now finally, and I got a bunch of work done. So what I've been doing is sealing up the firewall. My main thing I want to do this time around on this rebuild is like fix all the things that weren't able to get done previously, and also go one step further of trying to keep the smoke out of this cab. It would literally just vacuum inside. It really sucked, and there are just massive holes everywhere. So I patched a lot of those up. I sealed the steering column through the Firewall, and then I got Jake from New School Vinyl. I actually had him cut out like 1 inch, inch and a half circular stickers so I can go around and like patch all the little holes up all on the inside of the interior. Hopefully no smoke, or a lot less smoke, gets inside this cabin when I start driving it. So that's been the focus now, and then we'll move on to, you know, dropping the engine and transmission in, start doing more assembly stuff. Freshies from KG. Booyah. Motor is about 99% done. Dry sump set up on it, new KRC power steering pump on there. So we're waiting on maybe 2 things. The fresh alternator from DC Power, which is also going to be anodized black. I have to anodize a couple more things, and then Rad Dan's water neck for the top piece, which I have to send out for anodized too. So once we get those on, this thing is pretty much 100% ready to go. We'll drop it in a chassis, and then we can start fabricating an exhaust, wastegate dump. Pumped that this thing's finally together. This took like so long just to get every piece together for it. It's been so long since I assembled one with like this package on it, since our Pro Car days. So I had to like make a couple things that we were missing and order a bunch of stuff. So it was kind of a 2-week project of getting it to this point. All right, it is almost time, hopefully, to get this thing down here. Woo. Always hate that part. KG Performance once again. So this is just a stock OEM Toyota automatic 2J bell housing with the Sleeper Designs adapter plate for the G-force. Little pedal box love. We had a couple master cylinders leaking. Sprayed a couple rusty areas, cleaned it up, made it look better. Then we'll get these fresh masters in here and finally toss this thing in the car. Caught it. One of my favorites is the fully Dom spec kick plate that we made out at Race Service on the mill. Dom cut all these slots and slats, and probably my favorite kick panel of all time. I think it looks dope. I gotta add a little bit of grip tape up here. We're one step closer, baby. There it is. We got some Alcantara upper gauge pod area. Gonna match the 86 right here, and then I got a fresh back since we're gonna have the Motec dash sitting right here, right in front of the steering wheel. So I just cut a nice piece of metal, painted it black, so we have a nice background sitting in here. So this is the center dash I made, hoping it lines up like I want it to. So we still gotta cut a hole in here for the bezel and the keypad on the Motec. I gotta drill some holes in the bottom to mount it, and then we should be good to go. So Race Grade makes these really nice bezels that you can fit the keypad into, so it sits nice and flush. Boom, look how clean that looks. I'll trace this and cut this out, and then we'll bolt this in. Boom. Next up is going to be the fire suppression system. I know this is like kind of a boring thing to be installing on the car, but if you can afford it, I 100% would say get one, because this thing could be the difference between you. I mean, it's basically the best insurance possible. It could be the difference of your car burning down to the ground, or you saving your car and maybe just having to do a bunch of cleanup and maybe replace a couple sensors, because that extinguisher material, when it gets into sensors, it kind of destroys them. Spend a day getting the thing installed, and then you have your insurance policy. You go out on a track, you gotta make sure you pull the pin so this thing is live and ready to rock, just in case you do have any issues. So brackets made, we're gonna drill some holes, and then we're gonna clean these things up on the mill. They're pretty heavy, so we'll cut a couple speed holes in the center. Paint it up with some Steel-It. I'm gonna let these things dry. And then we painted them now before we weld them in, because once they're welded in, we're not gonna be able to paint underneath them. So I'll just grind back off the area that we're going to weld and get these babies installed. All right, we're in. Definitely not stoked with how those welds came out, but you gotta try if you wanna get better. Alright boys, I spared you all the expense of how long this took me, but we are officially done. One nozzle to the fuel cell in the back, and then coming up to the cab, we got a nozzle right to my feet. We have two nozzles that I put up here for both sides of the engine. So freaking pumped that's done. All right, we got big upgrades today. We are pulling apart our fuel-safe fuel cell. Since we already built the bracket and everything around this, we're not going to change the bladder or the cell itself size-wise, because radium has different sizes, but we did get the Radium Engineering FC-ST, which has the surge tank built in with the pumps, and this is all gonna drop straight into this bladder. Bolt right up, we'll put the bladder back in its box, bolted in, and then we'll have our super clean surge tank in the tank. Easiest thing to wire up, the cleanest plumbing there is, and makes the back of the car just a lot easier to work on. There it is, simplified. Got our dash mount, baby! Boom. Yes. What up, boys? It is dry sump tank time, and I got my hole marked out. We're gonna be placing it right here. So this is pretty much the same way of doing it that Papadakis Racing has been doing it, and also Dom did it on the Formula Supra. So just gonna drill a hole, and then we're gonna weld in this 3-inch pipe so that we have a drain through the floor, and then I'm gonna make a bracket and weld it to the intrusion bars over here for this baby. Figure out our plumbing for our bulkhead fittings to go to the engine and return. And then the breather can, I kind of want to put like in this area down here, and I'm going to do a side exit for the wastegate like Dom had it on my original 86. So I'm thinking I can hole saw down here and put this breather just up through here, and then that will be exhausted outside of the cabin, so you won't smell it, which would be good because this will be covered up with a plate. One thing at a time here. Let's get this tank in, baby. Holes cut. That fits well. Now I just gotta do some prep work and get ready to weld this thing in. I just made this bracket. Boom. I'm gonna sit on the cage just like that, and then I am going to weld that sucker on there right now. Boys, I have been cranking. I got the oil tank breather semi-installed right where I wanted it to be. So just coming out of the cabin, this will be an easy fitting to make right to the dry sump tank right here. Next step right now is to make a template for going into here. I got probably about 4 to 5 hours just on this piece here, just kind of trimming it all around the cage, and it still hasn't come out perfect. So learning every single time I go, trying to do the best I can. This will sandwich up against the cage, and I will weld these edges. I'll have to make a plate that comes here and connects this, so this is all closed off from the oil tank. Pretty much finished with this. Just threw a little bend on here so it wraps right around the cage. Hopefully makes it a little easier for welding. The gaps for the cage, this hole and this hole, are a little too big in spots, but I have so many hours into I have so many hours into this thing that I am not going to redo it. I'm gonna TIG weld most of it and then probably have to MIG weld to make up for the large gap. Just kind of fits in like that. This is all nice and tight, which is good, right on the cage. That'll close up a tiny bit, but that's a pretty big gap. And then I'll be able to get most of that, which will be good, and then weld the floor in as well. All right, boys, we're all tacked up. Place this in here. That'll complete that end of it. What's up, guys? We're at my buddy John Lawler's shop. We're gonna do some bead rolling, or I'm gonna try some bead rolling for the very first time. I have already made a mistake, so we shot back to my house and made a new panel real quick. This is the new one, and the issue is I already made a 90-degree lip on this one. So now we're gonna use this as a test panel to get an idea of how to do it. Hopefully by the time we get to this, it turns out sweet. All right, this is my first test piece. It is just straight ugly, so hoping I get better real quick. This is my second piece, which is a little bit better on the turns. We're gonna go straight into the side piece, which is not as crucial, but as soon as we go into this piece, we want it to be as clean as possible. It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
No mistake there. The lines are pretty good.
Yeah, I think it looks fine.
All right, boys, we are tuned up, ready to rock on the main piece. This was the test piece. Came out way better than my first one that I tested, and we're just gonna give her a go. We did okay. Way cleaner on the corners, but still not perfect. Basic design, first time doing it. I'm satisfied. Not gonna make it again. Today we are gonna drop the motor in, finally. I am still waiting on our ACT triple plate rebuild for the clutch and flywheel. I was just gonna put the engine harness on, but I figure I better wait until I get it in the car, make sure I route it properly. Everything else is ready to go, so we'll just pull the tranny back off when we get that rebuild and put the clutch in. So the first thing we're gonna end up doing once the motor is in is cutting some holes and doing a side exit for the Turbo Smart wastegate. So I still have the piping from Dom when he originally built the OG street car back in like 2013, I think. I just got to re-weld the pipe back on there and we'll be golden. So, you know, you hold on to something for so long and you never think you're going to use it again, and then boom, all of a sudden you're stoked that you have it and you did not throw it away. So that should make my life a hell of a lot easier because I don't have to fab that whole thing up, and Dom's work is obviously infinitely better than mine, so I'd rather reuse his parts. The street car lives on in this chassis.
Okay, go down a little bit.
Motor's in! Look at that! There we go, boys. We got our ACT rebuild kit. This is the ACT triple plate 7 1/4. This is specifically for the 2J, and I've run these clutches for about 7 years, 8 years now in my cars, and they hold up awesome. We would get about 3/4 of a season in Formula Drift on our old Pro car. I'm expecting to do probably 2 seasons with this clutch in the East Coast car, even making upwards of 800 wheel. Since we're dry sumping, the oil pan sits higher than the bottom of the transmission. There's a big gaping hole where the clutch and the transmission mate to the block. So I am making a flange, but the flywheel sits further forward than the flange does. So I have to make a spacer and then weld the rest of the pocket in here. Hey, give me that. Good enough, I would say. Not half bad, boys. If I thought a little harder, I could have made something to close the rest of this off in the side here. It did what I wanted it to do. Could have been a little better. Alright, I don't think that's gonna get any better. It can only get worse from here. We're going back to the OG side exit dump. So we're getting this thing back into place here. It's actually really tough because you have to cut so much sheet metal through this side fender well area. I did all right. I'm not super satisfied. I wish I could do it again, but here we are. And it's already pretty much done. So now the biggest struggle is getting this to fit properly, and it's really tight to the flange on the downpipe. So I just have to make sure that clears before I weld this. As long as we get this done today, we'll be in good shape. She done. Don't even look at it. It's not perfect. Wish I could do it again, but we got a side dump. All right, we just got some more of the anodize. This is kind of the last of it. I got Rad Industries 2JZ upper water neck, which swivels, which is sick. Alternator, then little guys, and this is the air bypass for the anti-lag system that Dom had made previously. All right, boys, we are cranking. We got Bobby over here, Lawler upstairs doing some work on the mill. And we got the front end on here. We got the clutch bled, the brakes bled. Bobby's got the axles torqued, intercoolers going on. And then I can finally get to the downpipe, just because we have to make sure the turbo's clocked in the right position, intercooler pipes and everything is on. And then we can start making a downpipe, which is gonna be rather difficult just because of the lack of clearance that we have there. So just wanna make sure the flange and the clamp will fit here before we get into everything. This is all Cerakoted by KG. This is also a Garrett core. These things are super, super nice and very high quality. Ta-da! So we have enough fittings to do the rest of the fuel system. That's what John's working on now. We want it to go straight through, but there's just not enough room under the radiator the way that is, unfortunately. So John busted out this plate. And then we got our bulkheads running to the side, underneath into the fuel filter and the hard lines underneath the cars. Using all Brown and Miller stuff and our radium cell, and everything's freaking looking good. All right, so we got the fresh harness from Heartstock Motorsport. Since I'm going Motec PDM, did a full new mil-spec chassis harness to complement the engine harness that he had already made. Looks like a lot of work. Good job, Bobby. Get to work.
Nice.
Here we go, boys. Downpipe, exhaust making time. And John's helping me with the downpipe and exhaust. This is gonna take me so long, and John's got way faster fabrication skills than me. And we're running out of time. We need to get this thing down. We got dyno day set up, I think, in 6 days, so there's still a lot of work to do. But big thanks to Vibrant, as always, for taking care of me. We're gonna be doing a 3.5 downpipe, an oval transition underneath, and we're gonna run oval tube all the way across the bottom to about the differential area, and then transition back. This will just give us the most amount of clearance underneath possible. Not a lot of clearance under there to the ground on these 8.6s. Just try to do the best we can without having to scrape everywhere, going over all the bumps and whatnot. Currently jamming on an oil return line. This is our Dash 16 stainless, and I ordered this off McMaster, and then this tight radius elbow. This is probably one of the better welds that I've ever done, which I'm pretty stoked on. And then moving back to the exhaust, I actually hit this really nice in a couple areas, a couple bad spots too, but overall these are some of the best welds that I've ever done. We learning, we still learning. We just threw a little bend on her just to get it just a little bit up. Boom. So we're gonna do a battery cutoff straight off the battery. Boom. That'll be so that we can service the car. It's an easy kill right off of it. And then we'll have another kill switch in the front where it's supposed to be on the driver's side to shut the car off, you know, in an emergency. Still a little hot. Should have waited, but that's the key. I'm gonna finish up the water lines. So the routing was a bit tough just because every single bit of plumbing is literally on the driver's side of the car with the steering shaft. So there's just a lot going on over here. So it's just a hard compromise on where and how to route it.
Yeah.
It's tight, it's tight. We're gonna finish plumbing the wastegate. We got a brand new Turbo Smart Pro Gate 60 millimeter. right, big progress day. Plumbing's done for the wastegate. Plumbing's done for the water system. Front end's back on, headlights in, headlights wired. Fuel pump wiring done on a radium cell. Hades is busy programming the PDM. We found out that the keypad we're using is very old, so maybe different software or something. He's trying to figure that out now. Bumper's on, so we can make the final fitment on the exhaust and where it's going to come out of the bumper. Tomorrow should be another massive push to try to finish the exhaust. Get some wheels on this thing, finish bleeding brakes. That's it. All right, last kind of big push day with the boys here, with Bobby and John. Exhaust to do, some little things we got to button up with the front end of the engine. We just got the last shipment of our Brown & Miller order, so I can finish the plumbing on the oil system. Brian is still working on the ECU and the keypad programming for the PDM, so we're going to go through that and then test all the systems, and hopefully by the end of the day we're circulating this engine or turning it over for oil pressure, and then maybe a first start with probably no exhaust on it, but we'll see how far we get today. Definitely going to be a heavy push, so let's do it. All right, boys, it worked the second time around. Definitely learned my lesson because wasted probably a day and a half having to make this and then remake it again. What I did wrong was not back purge it, so it had a bunch of welding slag on the inside of every single weld, so I had to pull it all back apart since this is the oil return line, hard line, and now the welds look super clean and colorful and proper on the inside, so we're gonna finally install this thing. Carry on. So since that hard line's finally done, gonna make the connection on this side to the bulkhead connector and then this side to the oil pump.
Like mess with the dash.
All right, just did the last line of plumbing. Fluids time. You're going right, Tuerck.
Oh boy! It's really pumping now.
All right.